What is the meaning of life? This is a question that we all would have asked ourselves at least once in our lifetime. We wake up, we eat, we move, we explore, we connect, and it keeps going on. If you trace back to the moments where you felt this question come up, it wouldn't be a situation where the eating, the moving, the exploration, the connecting was happening without any obstruction. A happy person never asked what's the meaning of life. It's always when we feel miserable, when we feel low, when we feel our reward mechanism being disrupted. So, are we asking what's the meaning of life out of curiosity, or is it just a mechanism to reinstate the reward mechanism? It makes sense, right? Your mind usually scrambles for an answer only when there is distress sign, because it has to point out to the origin of that distress, the source of that distress, so that it can eliminate it or deal with it. So asking the meaning of life is the biggest distress sign, and I feel like our minds are just scrambling for the source of distress and eliminate it or give it some sort of closure. So, when we ask what is the meaning of life, do we actually need to know the meaning of life, or are we just looking for closure? Oftentimes, the conclusions we come to the meaning of life question is very reflective of whether we are actually curious about it or just need closure. Because oftentimes we just land up on some positive illusions or some sort of nihilistic remarks, right? We come to a resolve of, oh, my meaning of life is I'm sacrificing myself for the family, for the greater good. The meaning of my life is God, or the extreme of there is no meaning at all, nothing means anything. Even the denial of meaning in itself, it gives a closure, doesn't it? So I think when we ask what's the meaning, what's the point, our brain is just asking for closure, and we just give the closure, it shuts up. Fascinating, right? It also lines up with, if you've read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, it also lines up with his remarks when he says man cannot suffer without meaning. Our reward function is disrupted. Now there is pain or some sort of negative emotion, and I need to make this have some sort of sense so that I can endure it, because senseless pain is unendurable. So, of course, I'm just searching for some sort of closure, not the actual truth. So if that is the case, that we are searching for meaning, for closure, and not for the curiosity of it or to find out the truth, are we just searching for meaning, for motivation? I think this is the fun part. We didn't we are not looking for meaning so that we get the motivation. The lack of motivation is what's made you ask what's the meaning in the first place. And with closure, it just reinstates it. It's fucking fascinating. I'm not saying meaning is useless or pointless. It is a very essential synthetic fuel for most of us to keep going. And it's a valid thing to hold on to be able to endure pain, to tolerate boredom, to persist through periods of low reward feedbacks. But I am thinking of, like, if there is a better route to go about this without a synthetic fuel to delude you further into making you a working mechanism. I'm thinking if there is something more efficient, but without obscuring your perspective of reality. There is this book called The Denial of Death by Ernest Becker, where he's an anthropologist, so he talks about how he talks about essentially the immortality projects, that humans subconsciously believe that we are immortals and make plans as if we are immortals with careers, with relationships, with the future, with hoarding resources, I think we as humans are blessed slash cursed with consciousness, and the only creature that is remotely close to understanding the concept of its finitism, as you have to give us some slack. It's a very difficult thing to come to terms with. But if we do come to terms with it somehow, I think the finiteness of us is a more realistic closure to the question of what is the point, what is the meaning of all this, than any other made up extremist views. We are just finite. We have a start and we have an end. Pleasure is finite. I think the finiteness, the acceptance of that finiteness, remove the need for justification of pain. Because essentially that's what we are doing when we are asking for meaning. We need to justify the pain. When we say man cannot suffer without meaning, we are saying we need a justification for me being in pain, right? But the finiteness of our existence, the very fact that we are limited entities, that is all going to end. Everything is going to end. Your pleasure is going to end. Your pain is going to end. The cycles will end. Your life will change. Every days will change. Your body will change. And you had a beginning and you will have an end. The finiteness of it is capable of removing that need for it to be justified. Rather, it gives you the acceptance of like, oh, this is also something that happens. It's easier to accept actuality with the background of knowing that you're finite, even on a subconscious level, rather than operating on what Ernest Becker would call the immortality projects. So I think it's time we stop treating meaning making as some sort of sacred and fundamental part of life. It's just a compensatory mechanism. It's just a feedback that's happening to reinstall your stability of day to day operations. So, what I feel is that meaning is not so much a solution, but it's just a symptom. I'm not even sure if anybody would understand what I'm rambling about. I drop a comment if you understood what I'm talking about. Or if you can make sense of what I'm essentially trying to get at. Guys, it's really hard to verbalize shit like this. So, validate me in the comments saying that you understood what I'm saying. Okay, I'll see you again. Bye.